Good afternoon, everyone. Please allow me, Layan Abu Maidish, to welcome you all to the 4th Annual English Language Conference 2026, jointly organized by the Queen Rania Teacher Academy and Georgia State University. This year's conference theme is Inclusive English Teaching in a Changing World. This theme reflects our shared commitment to creating learning environments where every student feels seen, valued, and empowered to succeed. Over the course of this conference, educators, researchers, and practitioners from around the world are coming together to exchange ideas, share experiences, and explore innovative approaches to English language teaching in today's rapidly evolving education landscape. At QRTA, the mission has always centered on empowering educators and improving the quality of teaching and learning through professional development, collaboration, and innovation. Together with GSU, this partnership continues to build bridges between global expertise and local educational impact, making this conference an important platform for meaningful dialogue and professional growth. Before we begin, I would like to encourage everyone to actively participate in today's sessions. As you listen to the presentation, please feel free to prepare your questions and share them in the chat box throughout the session. Throughout the session, we will have a Q&A segment at the end where the speaker will address as many of your questions and comments as possible. It's now my pleasure. Dr. Aicha, are you with us? Dr. Aicha?
I'm sorry. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes.
Please all.
I'm sorry. Yes, I have some technical issues. I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Dr. Aicha Rahal, an independent researcher. She brings extensive experience and valuable insights in the field of English language education, particularly in the area of English linguistics. Her research areas include language acquisition, sociolinguistics, language policy, and language pedagogy. Today, Dr. Aisha will be speaking with us about strategies for teaching pronunciation to Generation Z, the generation of multilingual learners. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Aisha Rahal. Dr. Aisha, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy that I can see this number of people. Thank you very much for joining my session, and I have to apologize from the beginning that I will not be able to open my camera. And last week I had an urgent operation, so I didn't like to disappoint anyone and to be absent. But I will try. I'm going to try to present, yes, my workshop.
We hope you feel better, Dr. Aisha. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. So I'm going now to share. Can you please see my screen or my slides? Okay, yes. Thank you very much. So thank you very much once again. Thank you very much. So as you said that the title of my workshop is Strategies for Teaching Pronunciation to Generation Z, the generation of multilingual learners. So to guide you, this is the plan of my workshop. So I will start with the key learning outcomes. Then I will move to talk about the background to the study, the conceptualizations of key concepts, namely Generation Z, multilingual learners, and pronunciation. Then we will discuss together the characteristics of Generation Z learners. We will talk about traditional methods for teaching pronunciation and digital tools for teaching pronunciation, and I will end up with some conclusions. So I think that the key learning outcomes, I'm sorry, just a moment. I think that the key learning outcomes are learning the characteristics of Generation Z, and most of us are educators, are teachers, or researchers. So we need to learn about the characteristics of Generation Z in order to be able to choose the appropriate teaching tools and methods to involve them in the classroom. The second outcome is discussing the suggested teaching strategies that I consider. I'm sorry, I'm receiving notifications saying that I have to open my camera. Okay, I'm sorry. So this the second learning outcome is to discuss the suggested teaching strategies that consider the needs of this generation, and I will present some digital tools that can be used in teaching pronunciation and can involve this new generation in the teaching process. So the background of my research actually stems from my interest in teaching pronunciation and in searching pronunciation. So as you said that I'm psycholinguistics, sociolinguistics, but I have spent the past 10 years working on pronunciation, phonetics, and phonology. And each time I discover something new. One of these things is the change in the characteristics of learners nowadays, because we are teaching Generation Z, and we are teaching in the era of the development of technology, this digital era. So I think that as educators, as teachers, and as researchers, we need to rethink teaching methods and teaching tools to be able to teach this generation and to decide the appropriate teaching methods that meet their needs. And I must say here, not only their needs, but because when we talk about needs, we talk about how to improve their pronunciation skills or how to improve their learning skills in general. But I need also to include their preferences. So we need here to rethink teaching methods in order to meet the preferences of this generation. And as all of us know that we are in this digital era, so we need the student-centered methodology. We need to start from the needs, the interests, and the preferences of our students to design the suitable teaching methods and to adopt the suitable teaching tools to be able to teach this generation and understand them. So this is the background of my research. Then I will move to defining some key concepts. So Generation Z is also known as Zoomers. This generation actually is born so there is no single information, but there are several scholars who say that this generation was born after 1995, but there are other authors or scholars talking about people who were born between 1990 and 2000 or later. But this generation is known as digital natives. So due to the development of technology and due to the use of social networks, this generation has become digital natives. They are natives of technology and of digital tools. I move now to try to define digital learners. So digital learners are technologically dependent learners that use technology. We don't only use technology in the classroom, but also use the technology at home. And due to the overuse actually of technology at home, we need as well to use, or to rely on technology in the teaching process. In the title of my presentation, I also included multilingual learners. So here by multilingual learners, I mean learners who speak multiple languages, multiple accents. I think this is from my own perspective. I think that due to the development of technology, our learners or this generations that is not only natives in digital tools, but also multilingual in terms of languages. So due to the development of teaching tools, Everything is accessible and we can learn even languages alone at home. There are several applications can help us learn languages. But also we have speakers of different accents. And here I mean by different accents, referring to the sociolinguistic aspects um, of learning. So from the sociolinguistic aspects that we have our own accents. We don't only, for example, speak standard English, but we have local accents. And each linguistic context, each local linguistic context has its own English affected by local languages, first language or second language, or the languages that exist in that linguistic context. So here I'm aware that the development of multiple or multilingualism could lead to language transfer, which require pedagogical ways to learn the target language as well. So the target language here is English, but since we have other languages, since learners have other languages in their linguistic repertoire. So I think we need to consider this, because having multiple languages and learning a target language can lead to cross-linguistic influence, to the influence of the learned languages in the target language. So we need to find some way to teach the target language. And I will say later, so the goal is not actually native speakerism, is not to acquire native-like competence, but the goal is to acquire intelligibility. And I will explain this later, especially when we talk about pronunciation, which is the focus of this presentation. So I move now to define pronunciation. As all of us know, that pronunciation refers to the way in which a word is pronounced, how we a word, the way in which language is spoken, the way in which word is pronounced, how to pronounce words, how to pronounce sentences, how to pronounce sounds before words. We need to talk about sounds. And I know that pronunciation is ignored in language curriculum, or mostly ignored in language curriculum. When we look to language curriculum, we find grammar, vocabulary, and the four skills: listening, speaking, writing, and reading. But pronunciation is mostly ignored. It's important to learn to teach pronunciation and to learn how to teach pronunciation, because pronunciation actually is the basic. It refers to the production of sounds before we move to words and we understand the meaning of words, which is morphology here, or the meaning of sentences, which is syntax. We need to learn how to pronounce words and what are the articulatory organs involved in producing words. So from my perspective, I think that pronunciation is a fundamental component of successful communication. So after defining pronunciation, I want to involve you a little bit in the discussion. And I know that most of you are teachers, educators, researchers, or learners as well. We may have learners here. So I'm asking here I'm sure you know about this. What are the characteristics of your learners and what are their learning preferences? So I know that Generation Z is everywhere. So I want to know if you have noticed that this generation has special characteristics, have special learning preferences. I hope that we can receive some responses. I can see the chat box. But, I'm sorry, Lian, I can't hear you. Okay, can you unmute yourself?
I'm sorry, Dr. Aicha. Can you view the chat box?
No, because I'm sharing my presentation. So, please, just a moment. Yes, I think now, yes, I can see it.
Yes.
There is a question, so we can discuss it later. How do you know that pronunciation is ignored? Okay, yes, we will. Yeah. Our learners are so smart and they aren't traditional learners. Yes, absolutely. That's why we need, yes, appropriate teaching, yes, tools and methods to consider these characteristics.
Dr. Aisha, we're referring here with people with learning preferences and pronunciation to Generation Z. Is that true?
Yes, we are talking about the characteristics of this generation
Yes,
learners and their learning preferences.
of course. Yes, I think some people, some of our attendees missed the opening remarks, so maybe that's why there's a bit of confusion.
Okay. They prefer to use technology to learn. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. My learners prefer oral than writing. Yes, that's why we need to teach pronunciation, to teach accents as well, to raise their awareness of the different English spoken in different local linguistic contexts. They use media to learn modern slang. Absolutely, there is, yeah, and use. I'm sorry, they are looking for learning process that matches their goals. Yeah, students need to learn how to pronounce from. I'm sorry, I'm not. They don't like grammar. Yeah, they like to show their abilities, but mostly lack interests. And this is the role, yes, of the teacher, I think, to find some ways to motivate students. My learner prefer group work, absolutely, yes, group work. Enjoy learning through games. They prefer visual learning, yes, and we will talk later, yes, about some visual tools that can integrate them in the learning process, ways to motivate. They want to speak as natives. Yeah, they want to imitate actually native speakers of English, especially when, yeah, because the target language of this presentation is English. That's why I'm talking about English. Yes, so most our learners want to imitate native speakers and to speak, and to acquire native-like competence. But learning English in a non-native linguistic context may be an obstacle. Yeah, like songs and games. My learners use some new apps, absolutely, yes, which allow them to learn and listen what they want. My learners have different learning styles and ability. Absolutely, we have to consider, yes, their learning styles and abilities. You try to, yeah, interactive environment where every student feels involved. Yes, using technology and other tools. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much for your insightful, yes, feedback on this question. Yes, sir. So as you said, I want just to make a short conclusion. So as you said, that this generation is characterized by the use of technology, characterized by they are actually natives in technology, digital natives, and they and they have their own preferences. They like learning using games, apps, and other teaching materials. So this, as Sil said, this requires diverse teaching strategies and activities to involve these learners in the learning process. Uh, and there is an important here point mentioned in the chat box that these learners prefer interactive learning. Yeah. Although that when we use technology at home, we use we use technology at home in isolation. Everyone in everyone in their room, and they use their mobiles or their laptops. So there is isolation here in terms of using technology at home. But in the classroom, yes, these learners, yes, prefer interactive learning. And how to create an interactive learning is actually by rethinking teaching methods and choosing the appropriate tools that can involve them and engage them in the learning teaching processes. So thank you very much for all your feedback. I will try here to provide, yes, some characteristics of Generation Z. So as I said, and as you said, this generation is digital native. They are native in digital communication and connectivity. They are more racially and ethically diverse than any other generation. They are diverse, and one of the comments says that we need diverse teaching methods and activities. They are more individualistic, and this may contradict one of the comments put in the chat box that this generation prefers using interactive, yes, learning. Yes, maybe they are more individualistic at home, but in the classroom, they want to work and they want to study in an interactive environment. This generation use technology to learn alone, and they are accustomed to solitary learning. Yes, so there are different views actually in the literature regarding this generation. There are views saying that this generation are natives, are digital natives, and they are digital natives even in communication and connectivity, but there are other scholars who see that this generation is more individualistic. They prefer learning alone, and they prefer using just technology and learn. And there are some researchers actually talking about the negative sides of using technology in the classroom, and they pointed out that the overuse of technology in the classroom can kill the relationship between teachers and learners. So learners become more individualistic. They just use digital tools alone without guidance from teachers, and this may affect even their performance, because if they don't receive guidance from teachers, correction from teachers, they can acquire some mistakes, and because they need correction here from teachers and they need the involvement of teachers. Although we need to adopt this learner-centered approach, but guidance from teachers is important. So thank you very much for all your comments. And these are just some characteristics of Generation Z, but you mentioned a lot, yes, of ideas in the chat box. Thank you very much. So now I have another question. How do you teach pronunciation, or how did you learn pronunciation in the past? I mentioned at the beginning of this talk that pronunciation is ignored, and yes, this is not my claim, but based on previous literature, it is mentioned that pronunciation is ignored in the teaching curriculum in language teaching. And when we look to some textbooks, and I'm personally from Tunisia, but I live in Europe, but when we look to some textbooks, for example, from Tunisia, we can find that pronunciation is ignored. We have some phonetic symbols in textbooks, but they are not really taught in the courses. Some symbols that A is phonetically written in this way, B is written in this way phonetically, but this skill is mostly ignored in language curriculum. I'm talking about my own linguistic context, but maybe in your context, yes, you give more importance, yes, to pronunciation, and you integrate this skill in your language teaching curriculum. So I will see, yes, I will check your comments, your feedback. Okay, yes, through listening to natives by using technology. That's good, yeah. I learned English by watching, yes, English speaking cartoons, yes, by listening. Listening to native speakers, through listening to native training, yes. Reflecting on traditional learning methods, active teaching strategies for teaching, yes, pronunciation. Yes, song lyrics are the most useful thing. Listening and repeating, and we will see later what is this method. Yes, yes, I will present, yes, traditional methods of teaching pronunciation, shadowing, yeah, songs, movies, yes, modeling. So there are, yes, several, yes, tools or activities used to teach pronunciation. Yes, as must say that pronunciation is a bit ignored, yes. Maybe in some countries, in some language curriculum or language education curriculum in some countries. Okay. So songs, drillings. Before students can speak fluently, they need to understand how sounds are physically produced. Exactly. So we need to know the articulation and the production of sounds, and to know what are the organs involved in producing those sounds. Yes, before moving to understand. Sorry, before speaking. Yes, Khulud, yes. By listening through songs, podcasts. Yes. Learning syllables and stress, yes. Because when we talk about pronunciation here, we talk, yes, absolutely. We talk about vowel sounds, we talk about consonant sounds, we talk about stress, intonation, rhythm as well, mental games and listening. The goal, there is a comment saying that, sorry, the goal is not just to use technology as a replacement for a pen, but to shift the student from being a passive receptor to a content creator. Yes, exactly, Khalid. Songs, films, podcasts, listening, films. Yes, teachers have to be trained more to teach skills like pronunciation. Yes, absolutely. For example, in my country, they provide training for training to teachers for grammar, for other skills, but pronunciation actually is ignored. Using pictures, flashcards to connect sounds to meaning, exactly, and to connect sounds into phonetic symbols. Yeah, absolutely. Watching movies, blending yes sounds, watching TV, listening. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for all your feedback. So before moving to talk about the new digital tools used in teaching pronunciation, please let me talk a little bit about the history of teaching pronunciation. And here we talk about traditional methods for teaching pronunciation. When we look at the history, we found that teaching pronunciation has started in the 80s and 90s. And here we talk about the direct method. So the direct method gained popularity in the late of 80s and early 90s, in which pronunciation is taught through intuition and imitation. Yes, as you said, yes. Yes, we listen and we imitate. And then in the 1940s, 1950s, we have this audiolingualism. It's the same method, yes, audiolingualism in the United States, and it is called oral approach in the United Kingdom. So according to this method, pronunciation is important, and pronunciation is taught explicitly from the beginning. So the teacher makes use of information from phonetics, and from phonetics, as you said, we need to teach yes, sounds, how to produce sounds. And here they relied a lot on minimal pairs. As you mentioned, we need to do some activities, drills. So based on this method, the teacher model a sound, a word or utterance, and the student imitate or repeat. That is, listening to the teacher and repeating. Then in the 1960s, we have the cognitive approach. The cognitive approach actually de-emphasized pronunciation in favor of grammar and vocabulary, because native pronunciation or native speakers' pronunciation was not a realistic objective to be achieved according to this approach. In the 1970s, we have the silent way and we have the community language learning. Based on the silent way approach, the teacher shouldn't talk a lot, just point to sounds and let students practice. I'm trying to be fast, and for the community language learning, this refers to the use of community, the community that is the teacher, and sometimes in some classrooms we have an assistant. So these people should be involved in teaching learners on how to pronounce sounds correctly. Then we have, in the 1977, we have the total physical response. The total physical response that is linking pronunciation to body movement. For example, as you mentioned, that when we talk about pronunciation, we talk about stress. So we can here point to this syllable. This is stressed syllable. This is unstressed syllable. So we try to use some body movement in teaching pronunciation. Then in the 1980s, we have the communicative approach, that is teaching or integrating pronunciation in an interactive environment, that is we talk, we listen, and we practice together using different drills. Then we have the natural or naturalistic method, which focuses on listening without pressure. So without putting pressure, without saying to learners, this is right, this is wrong, we give them the time to pronounce, we give them the time to internalize the target sounds. Because the aim here is not native-like competence. The aim is to achieve intelligibility, understandability between the interlocutors. So I tried briefly present the history of teaching pronunciation, and the focus of this presentation is digital tools used in teaching pronunciation. Based on my experience in conducting some research on pronunciation, so I always use Pratt. Pratt is software used to study sound system, to visualize sounds, the articulation of sounds. So I think that Pratt can be used, and this is a window from Pratt. Pratt can be used in teaching pronunciation, because in Pratt you can find several options. You can find options to open Pratt script or to open some audios. Learners can record mono sound. Learners can record different sounds, words, sentences, paragraphs. They can listen as well. So this software can help in recording and listening to our recording, listening to our sounds, sharing this with other learners. So I think that Pratt can be used in teaching pronunciation. And Pratt is used in phonetics studies and in pronunciation in order to show that there is a mistake, for example. It's not just recording, it's creating text grids and then trying to identify formants, and based on formants, I know that I'm talking about here difficult things. So, but I want to say just that Pratt is not only used by phoneticians to measure sounds and to show that this sound is pronounced like native speakers and this sound is not pronounced as native speakers, but it can also be used as a teaching tool to help learners record their pronunciation, listen, repeat, and imitate, or etc. So we have another software which is power pronunciation software. These are some windows from this software. So in this software you can find vowel sounds, consonant sounds. In this software you can find the articulatory organs. So as I said, that the production of sounds involves the use of several organs. For example, if we pronounce the B sound, we press the two lips together. So here we use the two lips. It is called bilabial. But when we press the two lips together, we have here stop of the airflow. When we say B, there is a stop. That's why B is described in pronunciation and phonetics as bilabial stop sound. And in this software, you can find the description of sounds, as you see here, per sound, and how to articulate the per sound, the organs involved in articulating or producing this sound. These are other windows or pages from this software. So this software can visualize the production of utterances, of words, of sounds, and you can have several activities, including, as I said, minimal pairs, tongue twisters, so learners can practice, yes, through drills. Through listening, through imitating, through repeating, through comparing their pronunciation with the pronunciation of native speakers, because the recorded pronunciation is pronunciation of native speakers, and there are several activities learners can use to practice pronunciation. Nowadays, we talk about AI, artificial intelligence, and we also have some AI tools can be used in teaching pronunciation. Speak Open AI, for example, can be used in pronunciation. I'm sorry, I couldn't find the other pages from this AI tool because we need to pay before seeing the different activities. But we can also have, we can find in this activity the option to record our pronunciation, to look, as you can see from this slide, that you can look to the pronunciation. We have IPA here, the phonetic transcription. One is pronounced in this, is written in this way. And we have different as well pronunciation. We have Austrian pronunciation. We have British, American, and we have also definitions. So this software can provide several activities to practice pronunciation, not only to practice pronunciation, but also to discover other information like the phonetic transcription based on APA. I'm sorry, here it's written in French. So it's you can find other information, and we can find also different pronunciation. That's why I say that there are different accents, different pronunciations of English. One is pronounced in Austria in this way, it is pronounced in British English, or in the UK in this way, and another way. That's why we need, yes, these digital tools to let our learners practice and to discover as well other pronunciations used in other linguistic contexts. So to conclude, I would like to say that Generation Z is a special generation, and as teachers, as educators, researchers, we need to adapt to new technology and have digital literacy as well. Not only our learners should learn how to use digital tools or AI tools, but I think we also, as teachers, as researchers, we need to have training to know how to use these tools. And as you said, yes, in the discussion, that this generation likes to use likes interactive learning. It is a visual generation. They are visual learners. They are technology driven. So we need technology driven methods.
Thank you, Dr. Aicha.
Thank you very much. So
thank you for such an. I'm sorry, but we're running.
No problem. Yes, it's me who went over time. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for such an insightful and engaging session. Your perspective on the characteristics of Generation Z, alongside their learning preferences, have given us much to reflect on when we continue working towards more inclusive and effective English language teaching practices. I would also like to thank our audience for your active participation and thoughtful engagement throughout the session. We hope today's discussion inspires new ideas, meaningful conversations, and continued collaboration among educators and professionals in our field. On behalf of the Queen Rania Teacher Academy and Georgia State University, thank you for being part of the 4th Annual English Language Conference 2026. We look forward to seeing you in the next sessions. And we wish you a productive and inspiring conference experience. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Aicha. Sorry, but we ran out of time.
Thank you very much. It's me, yes. I'm sorry, yes, for going over
and
time.
And thank you for being able to join us when you've undergone a surgery. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.